Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. If you are a regular viewer of Deprogrammed, it's good to talk to you guys again, hang out with you again. Kind of had a light week, had family in town, and Mystery Chris had a work thing. So we also didn't do pop culture this week, but it's good to be back. If it's your first time here, I hope that you'll check out the channel. We have lots of interviews with people who have had, how would you put it, experiences with woke culture. And we also have Wednesday night shows where we talk about woke in entertainment or things that are blessedly anti-woke. Very excited for today's guest. If you're a regular viewer, you will recognize her. We've done a deprogrammed interview with her about her experiences leaving the woke cult or being attacked by the woke cult in dancing and performance art. Oh no, she just dropped off. We'll have to wait for her to come back. I just saw, there she is. Please welcome Martina Markota. Hello, Martina.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
I thought I lost you for a second.
I know, got back in right on time. That might be here and there, so don't worry about it. I'll get back in.
That's fine. Hey, for anybody who hasn't seen the interview with you yet, and we'll link it below, can you just tell people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was a New York City nightlife performer, and I guess my story is that I got canceled in 2016 over the election. So it was a whole dramatic affair, and I basically just lost my career. So yeah, not a performer anymore.
It's crazy, and for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, I would encourage them to go watch that interview, because sometimes people are only familiar with woke cancellations like in their world. So if they're in academia, they're like familiar with different people like Michael Rechtenwald who've gone through that. But it also happens in the knitting world. I've done lots of interviews with knitters about this. It's happened in the dancing world, which I think surprises some people. They're like, why would that come into play in dance?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot. Probably in the interview we talked about it a lot, but I definitely had, especially in the beginning, and was like, well, what did you do? Like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, no, not just for voting for Trump. I'm like, yes. I mean, if you can imagine, the arts world in New York City are extremely liberal. They are the wokest of the woke type people. So they flipped out like particularly hard.
Yeah. Is that a kitty cat behind you?
Yeah, he's not supposed to be on tables. Kitty? Yeah, come on. No, she knows this, but she's obsessed with this like big table for some reason. Yeah. She's been laying out on it, and we're just like, hello, kitty cat. No table.
I love your decor in this room, by the way. I have to say, every time I do an interview with you, or I mean a video with you or your husband, Jack, there's some new background. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I really like your style.
Yeah. Well, yeah, unfortunately, when we moved from the other place, it had the green walls, which is amazing. I painted those. So I want to repaint the new office green, so it has that like office vibe with the gold frames and everything. But my office isn't sorted yet because we just moved, sort of, a few months ago, but it's been a work in progress. But this room is a living room, and it has the mid-century modern vibe. We have different vibes.
I love the mid-century modern.
Yeah.
We are currently renovating our house, as you know, and my husband and I have to show you something. Let's see if I can pull this up. My husband and I were just at Round Top, Texas, which if anybody watching, if you are anywhere near Texas, you should come. You should go. It's twice a year they have a big antique show. And so there are people that come from all over the US. They pack up their trailers, they bring all of their wares, and it's like a month-long thing where there's just huge tents and vendors. It's so cool. So we met people who had booths there from Oregon. We met people who had booths from Maryland, North Carolina, like all over. So let me see if I can share this with you. This is the weirdest thing that we saw, and I've had lots of people weighing in on whether this is real or not. Let's see. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Oh wait, there it is.
What's happening?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Was that you that posted that?
Yes.
Oh, I saw that on Twitter.
This guy He's an antique arms dealer from North Carolina, and he had all kinds of antique guns and antique swords, and they all had a story. But this was the craziest thing. Now, he told me, I'm starting to think that though these may be real antiques, the story behind this is not true. I'm not sure. See what you think about it. He told me this was from the 1800s, and this is a vampire killing kit. And for anybody who's just listening, it's shaped, first of all, like a miniature coffin.
Yep.
And then inside, there's an antique black powder pistol. There's a dagger, two wooden stakes. Yes.
The cross, crucifix.
Yeah. A beautiful crucifix. There's this antique Bible over here on the left that has it has an ivory cover.
Cool.
There was a bottle for holy water. Anyway, what do you think about this? Do you think it's really from the 1800s?
I'm not sure, but it seems like something that they would do in the 1800s, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're just like so kooky sometimes. Like, what are you thinking? Like blood letting or like the leeching? It's like, I don't know what you guys are thinking
Right.
about that, but I don't know.
I mean, they
were
do
pretty
have
religious and like, what is it called? Superstitious back then too.
Yeah, and there were exorcists and things like that. I mean, I guess there are still exorcists, so I have no idea. But yeah, Dion says either way it's fun and cool. Yeah, either way it is, and the antiques inside of it are real.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of cool. But yeah, if you're interested in this, lots of people reached out to me when I posted asking how to get in touch with this guy. I don't know if any of them actually contacted him, but you can find him it's called Axe Antiques, but it was going for $6,500.
Wow.
So I could not justify. People were like, "Why didn't you buy it?" I'm like, "Well, because my husband said we could have a kitchen or this vampire hunting kit."
I think you'll get more use out of the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, no, we love antiques. Actually, this particular angle, I don't think it has like any of the old one. It's funny because the wall I'm facing has an old credenza, 60s credenza and matching side tables. And I'm using my antique mirror. Let me see if I can. No, I can't. The cord doesn't come here. But it's really cool that mid-century, it's like has like that clear plastic rim around it. It's really just like everything's really funky. Oh, this chair, maybe. This is an actual antique chair, this one.
Oh, I love it.
And I have a theremin here. So everything looks just really funky.
It's so nice. Yeah. If I didn't do a series of a podcast about woke stuff, I think I would do one about antiques.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it would be like
sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I just love it. I don't know a lot about the different time periods, though. I mean, I know a little bit about mid-century modern, but there's a show that I like on YouTube called Bros of Decay. Have you ever seen that one?
Actually, no.
It's so good. It's two brothers, and they just travel around to abandoned castles or abandoned mansions.
Love that.
Yeah, and then they take the cameras in and they show you, and a lot of times these places still have pieces inside of them. They've just been left to decay. And but one of the guys, he cracks me up because they love these old places and they love documenting them, but they also don't know a lot about history. You can tell because every time he shows a piece, Martina, he says something like, "And this is from back in the day when." So that's how I would describe
that. I feel that because that's what I mean, I just like beautiful things and I like good quality things. Like even with clothes or something, it's like, is it real wool? Is it real cotton? Like silk? Like those are things that I like. I don't like the polyester a lot of the times. I'm just kind of like, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with like furniture. It's like you can tell when something is just like made of quality and proper wood instead of like something cheap like IKEA stuff or something, you know. It's really nice. It just gives you a different feel and energy to it. I love it. I'm so done. I'm too old to be living like in a dorm. Like, I feel like most people, even at my age, are still living like dorm life. And I'm just like, no, I want art on the wall. I want real furniture. I want to live like an adult now. I'm done.
Yeah. And Therese points out in the chat, that furniture was way better made than the crap. Now that's true. That's the other reason I love, like you, I look to see how it was made, and I would rather spend more on something that's going to last forever than there was this great quote. Some people have attributed it to Ben Franklin, but it's what is it? The bitterness of poor quality lasts long after the sweetness of low price has disappeared. And I think that says everything, whether it's clothing or furniture. It's like, get something that's going to last.
Exactly. You know? And the thing is, you'll be surprised, actually, if you go on like Facebook Marketplace, you can find like these antique like trunks for like $50, or like a dresser, or like an old desk. And it's just like what is it called? Like an executive desk or something. Mm-hmm. And it's just like really stunning, like antiques, and it's really cheap as long as you can just come and pick it up. But if you go to like IKEA, it's crap, and you're spending like 3 times as much. Like it'll still cost you hundreds of dollars to get like a simple cabinet.
Yeah, you're spending that. Can I tell you, I just got back from last month. I got to go to Germany with my husband, had some shows. I went for the last week, and this was something I haven't mentioned on the show yet, but I thought this was so interesting. We stayed with some of his old friends, and they were saying nobody likes antiques there. Like, they had this beautiful cabinet. It was her grandmother's, and I was commenting on it, just how gorgeous it was. And she said, yeah, if I tried to sell this, I couldn't even get $50 for it. Like,
oh my God.
Everybody in Germany decorates with IKEA, like the modern and very simple. And sure enough, like, just walking around the city of Freiburg, we saw old antiques just sitting out on the curb, like, take this for free. Yeah, like trash.
Wow,
and
that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I told her, I was like, that cabinet, she said, I can't get $50 for this. I'm like, I'm telling you, as someone who goes to antique shops in Texas, that would be $2,000.
Exactly. No, it for real too. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it, actually. And I really think it depends on, I don't know where, because like where I'm from in New York, like if you go up to Hudson, the town of Hudson or something, it's like antique central, like where I'm from. And even something that you would find maybe like on Facebook Marketplace or out on the curb or something for like $5, you would find it in those stores for like $500 because like they're all about antiques, and everyone there shops like antiques, and all of the shops are like really curated, you know. They're not like, and it's the same thing with clothes. So like I love like vintage clothes, and a lot of times it's like I'm wearing real vintage wool from like, you know, cute little Mad Men looking outfit, and it's like that I got that for like $20 as opposed to like something in a store that's going to cost me like $100, you know? So it's polyester in the store, and there's like a million of them that anyone can buy. And so it's like, you can go and find that. But there's like those antique vintage stores where they're like curated. In New York City, there's a lot of them too, where it's just like, they're vintage, but like, damn, they like the prices are like really racked up. It's really expensive to buy that dress, you know? Yeah. And it's like, they'll really rack up the prices. But like, if you go to one of those that are like what is it called? The Salvation Army types, where it's just like loads of stuff that you have to like sort through and filter. And it's like all the dresses are $20. You know, they don't distinguish from piece by piece or designer or what. They're just like, I don't know, dresses are over there, they're $20. You know, shirts over there, $5. And then you sort through and you go, wait a minute, this one's real silk. Wait a minute, this one's like Oscar de la Renta. Getting this one, you know? Yeah. So like, there's different shops and things, but like where I'm from, it's like, oh, they're all really curated, really nice like shops, and everything's really expensive. You would definitely sell that piece you're talking about. Yeah. Like $1,200.
Yeah, the curated ones. I actually have a minor gripe here about, I know people have given me shit before for going to Goodwill. They're like, oh, you should go to the local thrift shops. And I do, but I still would go into Goodwill once in a while. And the thing recently, I don't know if they've done this where you're at, but you used to be able to find these gems like that just hidden because they price them all the same. And you would find like something vintage or something really nice just shoved in with everything else. But now where I'm at anyway, they've in the past few months, they take all those nice pieces out, and they have a website now. It's called like shop@goodwill.com or something. And they put them all up there and auction them off like eBay. And it ends up, you're paying almost as much as you would if you got it brand new. And I'm like, what's the point?
No,
You used to be able to go and
exactly.
find the good stuff. And now,
No, that's exactly the point of shopping, like, at those places. Go and you gotta it's the hunt too, you know? You're hunting, you're looking through the rack of, like, crayon shirts, you
yes,
know?
that's the
And
fun
you gotta,
part.
like yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for, I didn't know I was going to go down this path with you
I
today, but
know,
of
I know.
course, of course. So, first of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much, Patriot Gestalt, for the super chat,
Oh,
$20.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. I should have mentioned at the beginning, if you like the show, if you like Deprogrammed, we do have a locals and a subscribe star and a Patreon. And we now have YouTube memberships, although YouTube takes quite a chunk of those. Okay. I wanted to show you something today. Because I had family in town and we were at the antique show, I haven't been paying attention to the news very much this week, which I love. But I did see a couple things that just this boiled my blood. The CDC. Did you see this?
You know, I don't really know too much of what's going on, but I have seen comments about the CDC recently and something about, like, the kids.
Yeah, so they are now, this is a Politico headline for anyone who can't see it. And it says the CDC advisors are recommending adding COVID shots to routine immunization schedules for kids and adults. So they want to start including it on
The required
the required
immunizations.
vaccinations for children.
Like,
Yeah.
so what is that? To, like, be in school or, like, when you give
Yes.
birth, are they gonna just instantly give a vax or something?
I think it's for school. I'll read just a little bit from this
Oh,
piece. The CDC's independent vaccine advisors voted 15-0 Thursday to add most COVID-19 vaccines offered in the US to the childhood, adolescent, and adult immunization schedules. The schedules, which are updated every fall before going into effect the following year, consolidate all of the CDC's vaccine recommendations in one document for states that use them as a guidance for school entry
yeah.
requirements and busy physicians.
Wow.
Um, the fact that they had so little resistance that it was 15-0,
0.
and I, I mean, I've seen Brett Weinstein has been covering this, and he's someone that I follow for a lot of information about the vaccines. And he's pointed out that COVID did not really affect children out of all the demographics.
That's
That
what I was gonna
wasn't
say. I was like, isn't the one of the talking points is that, like, it didn't like, kids aren't really affected by COVID as much as older people.
no. And so it just I don't understand the reasoning here. And I bet Amy, who's in chat, has some information on it. Here, let me see. She says every state has their own exemptions and laws regarding school entrance vaccine
Hmm.
requirements.
Well, it's interesting too because, like I said, didn't know the details of what's going on, but I've been seeing that this is like a thing recently, and I retweeted something because we have the elections coming up, and surprisingly, New York is actually like we could flip this. Like Zeldin is really it's a tight race between Zeldin, who's a Republican, and Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, and so that's really exciting. But I just saw some really interesting tweets that relates to this. It was like some older Asian woman that I found on trending with Lee Zeldin, and she said, "As a pro-choice Democrat who will vote for Lee Zeldin, a Republican, I get a lot of Zeldin bashing in my threads. Fascinating that none espouse anything good about Kathy Hochul. Nothing. I have good reason for supporting Lee Zeldin, and the CDC gave me another one today. # no COVID mandates." Isn't
Wow.
that incredible?
That's also, I mean, that's encouraging because that's what pro-choice means. It means you're against the government forcing you to do something
Right.
with your body.
I know. And so, I mean, that's crazy that that said 15-1, which, I could see, but it was really inspiring to see things like that. I mean, I retweeted a few saying I'm Democrat and I'm voting for Zeldin, and the CDC one was an interesting one because she seems like a proper Democrat, which I can respect. I mean, I was never one, but like I get it. and respect if that's where you're at. So I guess hopefully the CDC thing is going to push people in the other direction and say, I don't know about these mandates. Because you know what? It used to be, I think we talked about this too. It used to be like the lefty Democrat, like hippies were like anti-vaxxers and like
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. And some of them still are the ones that have principles. They're
right.
like, because I think what's been happening is with COVID the past couple of years, they tried to force people's opinions on vaccine policy into the tried and true, like right left dichotomy. And if they can break it down, like if they can make us think about it in terms of right versus left, then they've already got these sides set up and they can manipulate people more easily. But at the beginning, before they were successful at doing that, somewhat successful at doing that, in my small town in Texas, all the people who were protesting the mask mandates and the vax mandates were lefties. Like they would do weekly protests, lefties.
Yeah.
And then the media is sort of like, well, that's a right-wing thing.
Right. And then of course they have to fall in line because, don't want to be right, like whatever the right believes in. No, we can't agree with them.
Yeah.
There has
It's
to be
that fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Harvard boy, what's his name? David Hogg. He tweeted, many people tweeted this, but I remember he tweeted something about how once mask mandates were gone, he was going to keep wearing his mask so that nobody would accidentally think he was Republican. Like,
oh my God.
It's crazy.
Like, people need to let go of it, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Two Sisters and Some Yarn, which, by the way, give it up for her, ladies and gentlemen. She's modding today. And Amy, I'm wearing your green hat. It's cold in my house. We don't have heat yet. I thought we did, but we don't. So I learned this week we don't. So thank you for that. She says they have not yet added it to the CDC childhood schedule. When they do, then it becomes a part of the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Court System,
Wow.
meaning it will no longer be liable.
Wow.
And Jen says, yeah, this doesn't add it to the school schedule, but it does influence the school schedule. Upside, it may make people think more critically about the other ones on the schedule.
Yeah. I mean, this is just another reason. I mean, I know it's not for everybody and you can't put that burden on all people. I mean, some mothers work and that's totally fine. And some mothers, like my sister, she's not really the teacher type, but I studied to be a teacher, a math teacher. And so I love teaching. I'm definitely going to be homeschooling. So this is another reason why. And I think that's to your next point too, is just like the schools nowadays, I just don't recognize it anymore. And if they're going to be doing these mandates, if they're going to be teaching what they're teaching them in schools, like I'm all about like homeschooling. Like it is not the same world today as when I was in school.
When you were younger, have your opinions on homeschooling changed at all? Were you always open to it?
I think I was always open to it. I mean, it only gets more solidified because the thing is, I like to control. I want to control what they learn, and
well, you're the parent.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even just like controlling like what they learn, which is an aspect of it because I don't trust what they're teaching them anymore today. But I think it's also kind of school's a bit dumbed down. There's a lot of excess time that's wasted. There's a lot of bullshit going on, fluff that's going on, and it's just like taught my little brothers how to read before they went to kindergarten. And I'm only like 3 years older than them. So I was like in like second grade myself or something. So it's like kids aren't reading in kindergarten. They're just learning their alphabet. They're not fully reading. And it's like they're capable of absorbing and learning so much. And I feel like we waste a lot of time. We waste a lot of time waiting for school. We waste a lot of time when they're in school going, now what's the color of red? It's like, do that when they're like 1. There's so much stuff that they can learn. And when you're young is when they do the most learning. Like they're sponges. They're absorbing everything. They're learning language. They're learning. That's why people, when they're bilingual or multilingual, it's about learning it young. Because once you get past like the age of 10, it gets harder. You're going to have an accent. It's more difficult to learn. Like when they're under like a certain age, like they're absorbing everything all at once. And it's like way easier to just feed them information.
I don't know if you saw this, but earlier this year, we covered it on the show. They actually pushed back the milestones at which they said children should be learning to speak. Did you see this?
No, that's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they pushed it back. I believe it was the CDC. Somebody in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I'll look it up because it's been a while since they did this. But they pushed back the developmental milestones to when kids should be speaking, how many words they should be speaking at what point. And they did this without linking it at all to what's happened the past 2 years. They basically said, "Hey, these are the new milestones for kids developing language and
It's not
social
because their
skills."
mouths are covered and you can't correlate what they're saying to words or anything, or it's
Right.
not because they're not out there interacting with other people anymore, so you're not getting all of that information anymore. That,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh wait, yeah, I found it. It was the CDC again. Look at this. Okay, let me show you this. Hold on, I gotta stop sharing this one. This is crazy. And I was out a couple weeks ago, just a real world anecdote. My husband had a show, and I was talking to someone at the table I was at, this woman who's a teacher, kindergarten, and she was saying that the kids are way behind what they're,
Mm.
the kids that are coming back after having been on lockdown or not going to school. She said just basic skills like being able to pick up a pencil, like things that you wouldn't even think about. I'm laughing at it, but it's incredible
Yeah.
because it sounds ridiculous, but it's crazy. It's like
Wow.
just she's like, forget about teaching them how to read. We're dealing with basic
And this is
functions.
exactly what I don't want. Like they're sponges. They can learn. Like I'm qualified to do it and I'm really good at doing it. So I want to do it.
I fully support it. I asked you if your opinions had changed because mine have. I used to think, of course, I was in the woke world for a long time, and so that probably influenced my views. But I used to think it was, only religious fanatics were
Yeah.
homeschooling and they weren't teaching their kids anything. And now I'm like, if we're able to have kids, there's no way I'm sending them to public
Yeah, I'm
school.
not sure if I ever thought about it that way because, I'm in New York, so, like, I don't really see those religious fanatics types, like, it's mostly lefty hippies, actually, and, that did homeschool or had some special school program type thing, that was a bit more hippie, like, "We don't grade, we just give them, like, good job," or something. But I never really associated it to anything, really. I don't think I even knew anyone homeschooled, so I didn't really have any opinions about it.
I think being in the South, it was probably a little different. The
Yeah.
interactions I had with it and some of the family I knew who are very conservative, I would say fundamentalist religious who homeschooled. Um, so this is from February of this year. It's a little old. Like I said, we've covered this before, but the CDC updated their developmental milestones for kids. Here's what parents need to know. And it says for the first time in almost 20 years, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the American Academy of Pediatrics have updated guidelines for developmental milestones in the Learn the Signs Act Early program. So this is a list, it's a checklist of developmental milestones for infants and warning signs of developmental delays. And so they have fewer milestones now for kids.
Wow.
They removed more than half of the milestones from the original 216 milestones. I'm trying to find, there was an article that showed the dates at which they pushed things back. Oh, here, this article does mention it. So one of the biggest CDC developmental milestone changes involves language development. With this revision, the CDC delayed speech and language milestones to older ages. Before, the CDC suggested a 24-month-old would say an average of 50 words, but the new guidelines say a 30-month-old should have a vocabulary of 50 words. However,
Wow.
yeah, so they basically push back the age at which kids will start speaking and how large their vocabulary is.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it and you go, "Oh, well, that's not like, I mean, what's 24 to 30, months. It's like 6 months. What's a big deal? Well, the thing is, when you're that young, like think about how fast a baby grows in the womb. It's like doubles the rate every week or something. Like it's exponential. So when you're that young, like 6 months is a long time. Like you there's huge, milestones that should be happening within those 6 months. So it actually is a long time.
And it
It's
impacts how quickly you learn everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my God. I see again, I don't know what world we're living in. Like this is all like I'm sure we all do it, but just like every once in a while, like the husband, we just put our hands over, just like what
Yeah.
world are we living in? I don't understand. Like I don't understand these low standards. I don't understand. I mean, anything. I don't know why, but I'm surprised by it all the time whenever I see stuff. It's just, I don't know.
I think the most nefarious part of that one, that February update that the CDC did, was that, as I mentioned, they didn't say anything about why they were doing this. They didn't say anything about like you said, maybe 2 years of being masked, or of seeing adults who were masked and not being able
Yeah, the
to
lip recognition is a huge part of language.
yes. Yeah, not being
Yeah.
able to see the lips, not being able to see adults speaking, maybe that has had something to do with
Yeah.
delaying.
And also just the human interaction, because we weren't allowed, I mean, especially kids, babies at that age, like when COVID just broke out, like you weren't allowed to see anyone. We remember the pandemic? It was like you couldn't see loved ones.
Yeah.
You were like cooped up in your house. Like that was it. And so like that lack of interaction with other humans, like that's a huge developmental like thing.
Yeah.
Which is, what some people say about homeschooling, but that's why it's important to have other activities and other aspects of, having them around peers and stuff. But I just want to be able to control all of that. And I think sports and other activities are really important for learning as well. So
In New York, what is it like when you go out? Are people still masking children?
um it's fine. We don't have any mandates, so like pretty much everyone's over it. But I will see like a mask here or there. I don't know. I guess it depends on what they're doing. I don't know if it's required or not. I do have a neighbor that has a kid, and when we first moved here, I saw that she had a mask on. But I don't know if it's because she was out at some school thing or like at a thing where she was required to have it. But nah, people aren't really wearing masks. I think they're over it.
That's encouraging for New York City. Like
Yeah.
here in Texas, I live outside of Austin in what I call real Texas, and for the most part, it was people never really obeyed the mandates as
Right.
strictly as they did in places like Austin.
Yeah.
But I was in Austin recently in a grocery store, and I still see people with a mask on children. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why is that still happening? Like, what do you?
A little bit more. Yeah, because I mean, I realize I don't think I've seen that many masks, but I will see like an employee is wearing a mask, but like all the patrons aren't. So it's like not
Mhm.
that big of a deal. And I think I have at one point seen someone wear a mask. I turn, I'm like, why is that guy wearing a mask? Like, not trying to be like an asshole, like Republican, like, don't wear a mask. Like, I don't care if you wear a mask, but sometimes it's like even almost awkward. It's like,
Yeah.
you're making it weird for all of us, buddy. Like, relax with the mask. Like, no one's sick.
Oh, Roberta Glass is here. Roberta Glass, True Crime Report, was a great true crime channel. I'm going to be talking with her soon. I'm very
Cool.
excited. She said lots of masks by choice in my neighborhood. That the psychology of that of who's still wearing it and where is interesting to me. Like when I asked you about New York, because when I was in New York a few months ago or this summer, I was pleasantly surprised to see that there weren't as many people wearing them by
Yeah, I was
choice
gonna say,
as I.
okay, good.
Yeah,
So that's what you saw as well, because I don't want to
yeah.
be like biased about it. Because like I love New York and I will defend it, But I honestly haven't seen people wear, like I think we're done with it. I've seen a few people wear it. I've seen employees wear it.
Do you
But
think maybe it was because New York was so strict the whole time, and so when
yeah,
the mandate was lifted, people are like, "We're done."
yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you something too. Like I think it really depends on the institution or whatever, or the venue or something. Because we wanted to go to a concert. I say concert, but it was a very small, intimate like venue. Because we have a lot of in New York, it's kind of like Europe. Everything's very small and cramped. It's like I'm not going to like some big arena or anything. I'm not going to Madison Square Garden. It's like a small little space. So there's like a little show happening, and the venue was really strict about the vax. Like you had to show proof on like some app or something. I don't know. But we were like, I guess we can't go. And I talked to one of the performers. It's actually Sean Lennon. And I was like, hey, is this like the vax thing like really happening? Because he's really like pretty like reasonable about all the stuff. And he
I've
was like,
seen his
yeah,
online. He seems very reasonable.
yeah, he's like kind of really open-minded, which, makes sense. But he was like, yeah, the venue is like from like, it's the new school venue. And I don't know, I guess the new school, anything with school in it. It's some sort of college or university in Manhattan or New York City. And I guess they're like super lefty about it. And they're just like really strict about it. He's like, yeah, they're being really strict about it. And I'm just like, well, I guess I can't go to that. But it's not that there's mandate. There's no mandate in New York City, but they decided to have that really strict, like, you will not get in unless you show this
That's
back.
what I think is happening in Austin. And this is interesting. Roberta says she's on the Upper West Side.
Oh,
That's where
nice.
she said
Right.
that she sees a lot of it.
Interesting.
See, in Austin, I see more masking by choice than I did when I was in New York. And to clarify, when I was in New York in the summer, it wasn't on the Upper West Side. But
Yeah, I don't think I've been
I
there in a
wonder
while.
if in Austin, it's a little bit like what you're saying the new school was doing.
Yeah.
It's sort of this tribalism thing, like this very lefty and in almost in a reaction or a response to what they view everyone around them being. It's like a lot of Austin businesses went on Instagram when the mandate was lifted and then did these virtue signaling posts saying, in our business, we will continue to require masks. And it was sort of like this political statement or something.
Right.
So I think that might be what's contributing to it in Austin.
I think
don't
that's
know.
where we're at, and that's where we're at now. I mean, luckily, well, except for this whole CDC thing that we just saw with the kids, but like the objective is to not have any mandates. That's great. But I think now we have these like social kind of circles where it's like you're on that
Yeah.
side and you're on that side. And I will never be able to go to a concert or show at the new school. Like I'm
Right.
not allowed anymore. Like
Right. You don't want my business, clearly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going there.
I wanted to show you something else. This is related to the CDC and the vaccine requirement or suggestion of adding it to the childhood schedule. So again, I said I have different people I turn to for different things. I turn to Brett Weinstein a lot for this subject, and I saw him talking about this last week. And let's just click on this one. This is from Dr. Marty Makary. He says, it appears the FDA no longer requires clinical trial data. Pfizer and Moderna's new Omicron vaccine, which was tested in 8 mice,
Wow.
was authorized today for children who are at the highest risk of vaccine-induced myocarditis. The FDA bypassed their expert advisors. This is the most political FDA and CDC in U.S. history.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then Brett Weinstein had some further points. He was like, the truth is likely even more dire. The FDA authorized these risky treatments for healthy children based on research in a tiny number of short-lived mice. But which mice did they even use? Were the animals biased to return a clear safety signal? How long were their telomeres? I started looking this up, and one of the first things I came across, Martina, this might make you laugh. Hold on. Let's see.
Kitty. Shush. Come on.
What's your kitty's name?
Kitty cat. I'm really autistic about pet names. Like I just kept calling her cat when Kitty when I got her, and it's like that's what she responds to. Kitty, want to say hi?
My mother-in-law has a cat named Little Cat, and that
Yeah.
cat is huge.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, she's cutie. Okay, so this is what I found. I thought this was hilarious. I looked it up. I was trying to figure out, is it true that this new vax was
Wow.
only tested on eight mice? So here's a fact check from CBS.
I
And
love the should it matter part.
isn't that, I noticed that too. Because they're preparing you for the truth
Yeah.
that, yes, it was only tested in 8 mice.
But does that really matter?
Yeah, headline, fact check, new COVID-19 boosters were tested in just 8 mice? Should it matter? You can
Yeah.
imagine, yeah, you can imagine if you read through here, it's like, well, fact check, yes, it's only tested in 8 mice, but, and then it
Right.
goes on to tell you why it should not matter. This is what this article is. I
Why
just,
does it say it shouldn't matter?
okay, so they're saying it's based on other boosters and that they only did slight changes to this one. So I'll read it to you. I'll read their explanation. It says, along with the new recipe of COVID-19 booster shots comes another claim that skeptics are using to justify their skepticism. The new bivalent shots that target the BA.5 Omicron subvariant became available last week to people 12 and older who received their initial vaccine series more than 2 months ago. But were those new shots tested rigorously enough before they were injected into people? The claim, multiple skeptics on social media have claimed that the BA.5 specific booster may be unsafe because before humans began receiving it, it was tested on only 8 mice. The facts. The basic fact is actually true. The preliminary findings presented by Pfizer were based on tests in 8 mice. What does it mean? Well, that is being blown out of proportion because experts point to several reasons why that might sound worse than it actually is.
Oh,
Quote, now we go to the experts. Quote, there's no concern from the safety perspective that this vaccine is safe, said Dr. Pia McDonald, an epidemiologist at RTI International.
there's no
And
concern.
no concern. An earlier bivalent booster, one that targeted the BA.1 subvariant, was already found to be safe. So an earlier one was found to be safe. I don't even trust anything like this anymore unless they give me sources. Like, what does that even
Right.
mean? Found to be
Right.
safe by
Because you said
who?
so. Yeah.
Okay. The slight tweak to focus it on BA.5 was not nearly enough to affect how safe it is. Really? Again, what does this sentence mean?
Yeah, like what was the tweak? Like how slight is this tweak? And also, don't you still have to like perform all the like proper safety procedures no matter like what the tweak is?
Not anymore. That's what that doctor was pointing out. He's like, apparently they're not even doing human trials anymore. It's like mice and only 8 mice. Quote,
Now put it in your children. Put it in your
yeah,
children.
put it in your kids. Those kids, I mean, they are the test subjects, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
exactly. And that's the thing is like if we say experimental vaccine, like it triggers them. It's like, oh, what are you right wing like nut job? It's like, but it's experimental.
It is.
Are
Well,
we going to ignore the fact that it's experimental?
by the way, Martina, this video may be banned.
Oh,
I'm never sure. I'm never sure if I'm talking about this kind of stuff, if they're going to take the video down or not, just FYI. So if you guys are in the chat, you're here for the
yeah.
live stream, you're watching it before it comes down possibly. But yeah,
Wow. That's
so
so true. We can't say certain things. It's again, I put my hands up. What world are we living in? Like this is crazy.
no, we can't. I was a guest on a stream this earlier this week, Monday night on Comics Division show, and there were certain things, we weren't supposed to talk about, one being the coof, the jab. And then afterwards, we went and did a members only stream at, where were we? Not Rumble, it's the other one, Odyssey. And I had never been a participant in one of those before, and I loved it. I'm definitely going to try that out for Deprogrammed, because we went there after the main show, and they're like, okay, now we can say whatever we want. And it was just like freedom, that feeling of freedom of like, I don't believe this and I don't believe that, and I can say
Wow.
it. Like,
Well, that's the thing. It's there's something about freedom of speech where it's like it's almost like the psychological natural thing that you want to be able to like it's a human nature to want to express yourself. That's why we have art and music and all sorts of stuff. Like there's something about expressing yourself, and when we're like stifled from doing that. Like it's unhealthy. It's weird. It's like a weird psychological stranglehold people have. What are you trying to do, Kat? Like you're being weird. As soon as I go live, it's like, why? Like, what do you go do your like napping thing you always do? um yeah, and I mean that going back to my 2016 canceling, that's kind of what it was about. Was like I knew how everyone was, but I like kind of held it all in, and it was only natural for me to want to express myself. So I used my real name that no one knew, and went out there and tried to just express myself because it felt good. It felt like a relief. But then when they found that out, that's what caused some problems. So it's the same thing with this though. It's like you want to express yourself, and I saw your reaction to like how good it felt, when you're in that members
It
only
felt so
chat.
good.
To express yourself. Then imagine people come in and they, see all that and they go, now you're canceled for expressing yourself. Like you're not allowed to say those things like Alex Jones or whatever, stupid opinion or not, you should be able to express yourself. Like, why are you
It is.
now?
And on my channel here on YouTube, I pretty much, I don't tell guests. In fact, I tell guests the opposite. I say, talk about whatever you want to, and if it gets pulled, it gets pulled. So I don't usually say, like, censor yourself. However, like you're saying, when I was on that after hours stream, and I have to say hi to Brahma, who's here. He was there too. Talking with him and those other guys, I suddenly realized it's like, yes, even I self-censor. I do without even thinking about it. There are certain things I'll just kind of, and so that freedom of that feeling of, I just blurted out all the wrong opinions that I have. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta get it out.
It's like human nature, man. And stopping us from doing that is like, it's messed up. The only people that have to express themselves are the left. It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
So you guys can go and read the rest of that article if you want. Here, I'll put the link in the chat. But they basically, you can tell from the headline what it's going to be. It's like, is it true? It was only tested on 8 mice. Does that matter? So, because then the rest of the article tells you why it doesn't matter. Here it is. You can read it. I did want to talk to you about, there was one other thing I saw in the news this week, which relates to homeschooling and what we've been kind of talking about with kids. This is something that Chris Rufo shared. And this is for anyone who, I guess, is like maybe new to the woke stuff. And I do know some people who still believe it's not that bad, that it's only in some schools or only in some states like California or New York, or, it's not in my red state. I still encounter people who have that kind of Pollyanna view about it. And this is pretty damning. So this is a piece, they did a survey. Here, I'll just read it. Yes, critical race theory is being taught in schools. A new survey of young Americans vindicates the fears of CRT's critics. This is by Zach Goldberg and Eric Kaufman, and you can find it at City Journal. So if you scroll down here, I'm going to show you some of the questions and answers. So it says, to answer this and other related questions, we commissioned a study on a nationally representative sample of 1,505 18 to 20-year-old Americans, a demographic that has yet to graduate from or only recently graduated from high school. A complete Manhattan Institute report of all of the findings from this study will be published in the coming months. What follows is a preview of some of them. Our analysis here focuses mainly on the results for the sample overall, rather than for various subgroups. We began by asking our 18 to 20-year-old respondents, 82.4% of whom attended public schools, whether they had ever been taught in class or heard about from an adult at school each of 6 concepts, 4 of which are central to critical race theory. The chart below, which displays the distribution of responses for each concept, shows that having been taught is the modal response for all but one of the 6 concepts. For the CRT related concepts, 62% reported either being taught in class or hearing from an adult in school that, quote, America is a systemically racist country, end quote. 69% reported being taught or hearing that, quote, white people have white privilege,
Mm-hmm.
57% reported being taught or hearing that, quote, white people have unconscious biases that negatively affect non-white people. That's the implicit bias thing that's part of CRT. And 67% reported being taught or hearing that, quote, America is built on stolen land.
Mm-hmm.
So if you scroll through here, they have a chart so you can see the percentages of kids who have heard this in class. So if it's the dark blue, they were actually taught this concept in class. Light blue is they heard it from an adult at a school. Gray said they were not taught that or they had not heard it. And the black bar is don't know. And you can see the largest of many of these is, yeah, we were not just heard it from an adult, that's the light blue, heard it from an adult in the school, but we're taught this in class.
Yeah. And, as you're reading all of that, I'm just thinking, again, back to when I was in high school, I graduated 2003. Never heard any of these things. These concepts didn't exist. They weren't a thing. And the left would say that that's progress, but I beg to differ. And so it's amazing to see, yeah, all of them. And even the one that actually says, the last one that says neither, the number that the dark blue, 31, I mean, it's, and the 20, if you add them together, that's actually more than that gray. So
yeah, it's over
it's
50%
being
of the
taught
kids.
that. Yeah.
It's and that one is they didn't mention that in the above paragraph, but that's about gender identity. They ask kids if you've ever heard or been taught that gender is an identity choice, regardless of the biological sex you were born into. 31% of the kids said they'd been actually taught that in class, and 20% said they heard it from an adult at the school.
Which is, I'm sure, a teacher just mentioning of that. It's not like it was a lesson plan or something, but I'm sure it's like one of these talking points. It's like, well, actually, identity is whatever. You can, whatever, assigned at birth, whatever the language they use. I don't know.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question I was thinking about recently? I saw this on Twitter. There was a person who seemed to be asking in good faith. They were saying, why do people have a problem with teaching kids about trans people? How would you answer a person like that?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on how old we're talking about too, because like high school, I think we all get it. And then some people in high school are having sex and all that stuff, and they're teenagers and they're sexual active. So, like, whatever. Not that, okay, again, and then people say, what does being sexually active have to do with like gender identity or whatever? It kind of does, okay? It just kind of does. It's weird stuff. But if we're talking about like little kids, no, what the hell are you doing? Like, don't talk about that at all. But we all took like a health class, where there was like the sex ed or something. I mean, we had that in my time too. Like, wasn't that big of a deal, whatever. Actually, I don't know what they're teaching them now, but I think they could have taught us a little bit more information about procreation and safety and all that stuff, whatever. That's all great and fine. And that's probably the time and place to be like, whatever, transgender, this or that. There you go. We did it. 2 seconds. It's done. I don't know. It's a weird thing because it does exist, but it's also incredibly rare. I think that they're making it more popular. So that's the thing.
That's one of my issues with it is gender dysphoria is something that traditionally less than 1% of people have experienced. Including it in curriculum or teaching, little children about gender dysphoria, I have a problem with it for 2 reasons. One, they're trying to normalize a disorder that affects just a small fraction of people. And I don't mean they're disguising it by saying, well, we're trying to teach kids to treat people, well, and not to mistreat them if they're trying to. Okay, that's fine. But that's not what you're doing. You're teaching them that it's normal to have gender dysphoria or to feel like you're born in the wrong body, and you're introducing the concept to 100% of kids.
Mm-hmm. Well,
99.9% would never deal with it.
Yeah, and also what you're saying is that like to call it a dysphoria, to like say like it's it's a disorder. It is. It's a mental disorder. Obviously, you don't treat anyone with any mental disorder like with disrespect. Sorry if that's going off. This is Jack's computer, and I think a Discord is like going off. I'm gonna have to
Your
get him.
Discord's popping off.
Yeah, if that like continues to happen, turn. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't see a Discord app open or any. Like the Discord is so like it'll pop up with these like bleeping noises all the time, and you're
It's okay.
Hold on, let me try to figure this out. But what you were saying is that even calling it some sort of disorder or something is like taboo, and you're not allowed to do that. And it's just, it is what it is. Like, it's not normal. It's Jack.
That's okay. You can.
That has to stop.
Let's use this as an opportunity. We were talking about Discord before we started. You guys, Martina has a Discord community if you guys would like to join. And she was giving me some tips because Pirate Tomsky is helping me to create one for deprogrammed subscribers. You can be a member of the Discord at any level of support, even I think she's fixing it. Even $1 per month.
I'm gonna have Jack fix this. So I'm turning the camera off. Yep. Camera's off. Camera's off. All right. Just it's been going off like crazy.
Jack Buckby, ladies and gentlemen, who's not camera ready.
Not camera ready.
There it is.
I've not had time to do my makeup.
Okay, there you go. Okay, I think we're in the clear now. Thank you, Jack.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, damn computers. All right, we're in the clear. Sorry about that. Yeah,
that's fine. We were just talking about how they're trying to normalize something that has only affected less than 1% of the population until now. Now it's like skyrocketing the number of kids saying they have this.
It's really not okay. Like I was always been a part of, I think we talked about it on my other thing where we talked about my career. I was a part of, like, I would say the LGBT community in New York City. I performed at Pride. I was performing at drag shows and gay bars and all sorts of stuff. My best friends were drag queens and gays and all that stuff. And so I was definitely like a supporter, but like you have to remember in that world, it was like the club kid scene where we dress up. It's nightlife. It's adult nightlife. And they're all dressed up and wearing costumes and it's nightlife and we're out partying. This has nothing to do with kids. And even in that world, I didn't know any trans until like 2016 is when they started to like pop up more and more. Actually, no, I knew one, Amanda Lepore. She's a famous transgender. Like, I think she even knew like Andy Warhol, like big in the 80s. Nightlife club kid scene. And so like I get it. And in that world, it was considered like we called ourselves freaks. I mean, I'm straight, cis female. So I was kind of one of those that lingered around. I was like the fag hag is what you'd call it. And so I lingered around.
You can't say that anymore.
I know. Can't say anything anymore. But so like I was a part of that like group, and what I loved about it was that like I wasn't the popular girl in high school, and I am now with my clique of freaks, and we dress up and we go out in nightlife, and it's fun. And we all knew what we were. We're all a bunch of weirdos. But to now say that this should be normalized, that it should be forced down the average person in like Alabama's throat, to push it onto children, to have the reading them for, the book readings for children. It's like, what? That's not the part of the world I was in. I was in an adult freak little segment of New York City, and we knew what we were, and it was fun.
Yes.
I'm not okay with making this normal for everyone. Now you can't go anywhere without seeing, some so-and-so in your hometown, 16-year-old girl is now transgender or something. And it's like, why do I now know so many like trans kids? Yeah. I personally know a few. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit?
Because it's become trendy. Because they're introducing it to children. The same way that when I was younger, there was this epidemic suddenly of girls who were cutting. Yeah. And it became, and then it was like, well, I'm a cutter. Well, I'm a cutter too. Well, and this sort of spread like wildfire. And now I think it spreads a lot in these social circles and also online, like on
attention. It's attention seeking. Teenagers want attention. They want to be unique. They want to be different. And now the thing to be trendy, not trendy, but like unique and like, oh, look how different I am. Like everyone gets to talk about me now is they're trans.
Yeah.
And they like to point that out because I know a few trans people that are actually truly trans. They don't sit there and go, I'm trans this, trans that. They just live their life. I know a few female to male ones that they just live their life. They talk about normal things with me. They look normal. They don't sit there and make trans their identity. They're just normal.
That's exactly what someone in the chat just pointed this out. Scott Miller. I've been friends with numerous gays and lesbians. They hated the Pride movement as it made them look like cartoon characters. I think that's happening more often now where, I mean, and maybe it's just by virtue of the being in the wrong thinker community and coming into contact more often with wrong thinkers. But, you know,
Right.
I have a lot of friends who come on the show who are gay or lesbian or trans who are not down with pushing this ideology in schools. And it's funny to hear you talk about, like, to remind people your background is being you were a dancer in this adult world where there are trans and drag queens, and yes, those are different things. And
Yes.
and that it's not it wasn't a big deal, but it was an adult entertainment environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, I'm not coming from someone that's just like totally not understanding of the community. Like I was part of the community. I just happen to have been cis and I'm using their terminology, just
I
to be
hate that.
clear.
Yeah,
I
I
am
hate
a
that
woman.
word.
I was born a woman and I am straight. I'm attracted to men. So as soon as I kind of deviate from their kind of political stance, I was ousted. It would be a little bit different. And it's not to say that I wouldn't be ousted if I were gay or whatever either, because that can happen. And I know that's happened to some people.
Yeah.
But me being straight and born a woman and identify as a woman, they're kind of like, she's not one of us. Like, fuck her. She just stabbed us in the back is how they felt about it. So, but I didn't. I cared about them and I always supported whatever they wanted to do. Did I believe that they were really a woman if they were, trans? Not biologically, no. But did I still care about them? Sure. Yeah, they're my friends.
There's this weird I've recently had you get attacked on Twitter all the time too, I'm sure. I had some young woke person who oh wait, by the way, let me put this up. You have to meet these guys. Brentley, gay wrong thinker here, LOL. Brentley is one half of Dangerous Rhetoric and is another base New Yorker. You guys have to talk if you have.
We have to get together. By the way, Brentley, I want to put on other events that I used to perform at, where it was like wild, like performances. And then it was like DJ nightclub, people all in the room that you wouldn't expect, like Wall Street people mixed with like Amanda Lepore and the like club kid scene. And it was just like a whole mix of random people. I want to put on events and that'll be really fun. So it's good to, now I'm back in New York. Yeah. And I'm back in New York, but it's like a different world. And that's what I love about New York. People talk shit about it, but you can just kind of find your way in any industry in it. So it's like, I feel like it's a new life. So I'm back in New York, but like, I now have the opportunity to create another life here. So I need new friends. I need new things. Just let's build it back up from scratch again.
Yes.
And so it'd be awesome to meet up. Yeah.
And especially to do like some fun artsy events that are not overtaken by leftist ideology. And the point I was going to make is I recently had people making the same assumptions about me, I guess, that they were making about you, because I had this young woke person on Twitter attack me for one of my posts. And they said something like, I mean, I think they assume that everyone who disagrees with them is some kind of bigoted, conservative, fundamentalist, I don't know, evangelical who's never come into contact with a gay person. And so this young person said, you just need to let a little bit of queer into your life, Keri. And I'm like, okay, before you were born, I was producing burlesque and drag queen shows in San Francisco at the Plush Room, in New York at the Slipper Room, like with Lady Bunny. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm sure you know Lady Bunny. We probably knew a lot of the same people. I'm like, girl, like before you were even out of the womb, like, do you think that I represented trans comedians? Like,
I know it's incredible. it's incredible. I actually know one person because I used to perform at the Box in New York, and I know one person who's been making the rounds too. Buck Angel, he performed. Like I knew him from the Box. I don't know if you know him, but he's
I do
been
know Buck.
transgender, female to male, and is very open about the fact. Actually been making similar, rounds on these podcasts and everything about. He's really against the children thing. And he's also like, I am biologically a woman. I choose to live my life as a man. And it's like respect, like 100% respect. I have no problems with people that want to do whatever they want to do.
Exactly. Because Buck doesn't force people to pretend that he's actually changed his biological sex. He doesn't pretend it himself. He's like, well, yeah, I'm a biological woman who's choosing to present as and try and live as a man. And in the past, like you said, a lot of trans people, they weren't this sort of like it wasn't an attention getting thing. Like, I'm trans. In fact, the whole point was to pass.
I know.
Like that was the whole point.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Someone in chat. Hi, Simon. I know Simon's in chat a lot. Says Keri has a long way to go to undo all the damage she did when she was woke. Listen, dude. Listen. I also think it's very important that I undo a lot of the damage I did while I was woke. That's why I host deprogram. So I agree with you. It's okay. So what else is good? These were the two news topics that I was looking at this week. I blessedly, because I had family in town and other things going on, antique shows. Shows. I didn't get my blood pressure up this week about much news stuff at all. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I mean, with that last thing with the graphs and stuff and charts, I love that. There was like other stuff too about like the race thing. And again, when I was in high school, we didn't really have that going on. And I don't think like people even thought about race in any other way. And I know it's really cliche when it's like, I don't see color, but I remember there was like someone in my high school, David Amin. And funny enough, I know that he sounds like Indian and I think his family is from India. I was tutoring him in math, which is really fun. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but no, he's younger than me, so I tutored him in math. And yeah, his parents like off the boat and he was like, but he had his call. And I don't think any of us ever even looked at him any different. He was just David Amin, And the same with me. Like my whole life after high school, people were like, where are you from? Where are you from? They always thought I was like Russian or something. And I'm just like, oh, like, do I really appear that foreign? And I guess I was, like everyone in my town is like American, Irish, white. And I guess Martina Markota is quite exotic in that town. Yeah. And so it's like, there's a few people that have, they're either Asian or this or that. And it's like, we all kind of were like, oh, that's cool. Like appreciated them for, Nina Chen, she's Chinese, David Amin, he's Indian, but like, we're all American in this school together. Like no one really looked at it in any, I've never seen racism going on. It was just, we are what we are. And now I think focusing on that and teaching white people that they are racist and, teaching non-white people that there's racism against you creates hostility. It's like, why is this even necessary? It's crazy. That's it.
This is exactly, it's sort of similar to them introducing the topic of transgenderism or gender dysphoria to children. They're doing the same thing when it comes to race. They claim to be about ending racism, but they're teaching children to see one another as different based on race, and not just see one another as different, but judge one another differently and treat one another differently. They're doing the very thing they claim to oppose, which is they're pushing racism.
And I know we have a separation of church and state, so I'm not saying get all religious in school or whatever, but I think this is also like shows a lack of faith that people have nowadays in today's society, and like just being really against religion, because that's where religion kind of takes hold of like just teaching general respect. And I think you could do it, non-religious wise as well. Sure. More like a philosophical kind of way of approaching it. But just teaching general respect and compassion and, things like that. you don't need to bring up race. Like that solves the problem for you. Like just teach people about morality, ethics. I mean, let's read about Kant or what, like
Yeah.
let's teach these things. Like we don't have to sit there and point fingers at each other.
When you say that, I know what some leftists are going to think immediately is you're saying don't teach history. That's not true. You can teach history. You can teach about the history of racism and sexism without also teaching kids that, like, hey, you live in a systemically oppressive world towards, this particular sex or this particular race, and this is the way it is, and you need to start looking at people based on what race and sex they are and assigning them a level of power and privilege and then treating them differently because they're in this privileged group or this non-privileged group. It's like that's what they're teaching kids to do is something in the current day. Is they're not just saying like this is history and this is what we've learned from it. They're saying this is history. This is what we should have learned from it, but clearly we haven't, because now we're going to teach you to do the very same thing, which is to look at people and put them in boxes and treat them differently.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, the thing is, if you want to go there, okay, teach history, then teach history. I bet you they're not teaching them that like slaves were sold, by other African tribes to Westerners. They're not touching that subject, they're not touching the subject of actually the Western world, like England and America and stuff were like the first nations to abolish slavery. And there's still some slavery going on in like, places like in Africa and stuff like that. So it's like they want to be biased. They want to just say, paint a picture. Also, history. Okay, then we talk about, isn't Thanksgiving like the whole thing of like when we came together with the natives and we actually had like peace and coolness? We were like, cool, let's have dinner together kind of thing. Like, why are you teaching it that it was only one way? Like that it was only us evil, what is it called? Settlers that came and pillaged them all. It's like, well, that's not exactly how it went. Like, can we be fair about history if we want to go about it that way?
Well, they don't like the story. So the story of Thanksgiving that we learned, which is about gratitude and about coming together, and they don't like that narrative, because they want kids to think that it's, again, that you're in this systemically racist culture, systemically white supremacist. And so I think that's deep down, that's one of the reasons they attack Thanksgiving. I mean, having come from that social justice world, I'll tell you, around the holidays, Thanksgiving and the 4th of July in particular, there's always a spate of articles every year, spate of articles that are denigrating the holidays, denigrating Thanksgiving, and basically telling you how, some of them give pointers on how to interject social justice talking points at the Thanksgiving table with your grandfather.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Just completely miserable people who are rewriting history. But yeah.
I'm going to shut you up, but if you keep talking, I can hear you. So you don't have to like have like a weird lull, but like Jack's doing something. I'm going to close the door.
No worries. I'm just going to read the super chat from Mark. $10. Thank you, Mark. He says, it seems like masks have little use for COVID beyond at-risk people. But if surgical and ICU staff wear them for regular patients, it must have some utility. The initial idea of using them was not unreasonable, if not now. Are you trying to get me banned, Mark? That's what I'm asking. I'm kidding. I think the issue, Mark, is that a lot of what they were telling people to use for masks, they weren't the kinds that are being used around regular patients anyway. They were not the N95 at first. And they were saying, all of these paper face masks that they're selling in stores, the kinds that they hand you for free when you go into establishments, like into stores, and they give you one of those, that's not an N95. Those are the ones that I never read a single study that said those did anything. So
I think for surgeries and stuff, it's like, I think it was just to keep like any spit particles or anything like going out, which I guess was the idea when COVID just first happened. But I think the bigger issue than like little spit particles coming out is touching things and not washing your hands when you come home. If anything, COVID happened, I hope everyone washes their hands a little bit better.
A couple of things I'll say, because people know I was always against the mandated masking. But they may not know, I do think some potentially positive things came out of the craziness the past couple of years. One of those is I hope people wash their hands more often, which we all should do. And also, I don't actually have a problem with, like, in a lot of Asian countries, if someone is sick, they choose to wear a mask. So if they're coughing and stuff, they're not like coughing on you or spitting on you. And I actually don't think that's a bad practice. Like if you're sick and going out, like putting on a mask to, to think being, but for healthy people, that was the thing with mandating. It's like everyone is going to wear one of these. Healthy people.
I mean, I remember it was around COVID, but like I don't think there was like a mandate or anything. I don't know. I think it was 2020. I don't know. I forget. It was when I came back to the city after like there was the big lull and after all of the riots, everything happened. I was upstate to get away from it all, and then I came back down, and I went to go to the park to go work out. And in my neighborhood where I live in Brooklyn, it's not what people might think of New York City. It's this big hustle and bustle. It's actually quite suburban looking. And so I was walking down the road, and on the blocks, it's like you don't see anyone. You don't even pass a single person a lot of the time. So it's very, very suburban type. And I was walking, and I did happen to cross paths with someone. And I swear to God, he did the whole not wearing a mask kind of thing, like under his breath. And I was like,
no,
what the? I was like, there's no one here. I'm outside. Like I'm going to run in a park. Like it was just so strange. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is the mask going to do walking around the neighborhood?
We had to go back to that conversation about some places were very different during the past 2 years and currently now. I think it's different based on what city you're in. We blessedly live outside of Austin. And as I said, people were more lax about it. It was more of a live or let live. You choose if you want to wear it or not in most places. But a year or two ago, like I think it was the first COVID year, my husband and I took a month-long road trip up to Idaho and back he had some shows up that way. And on the way back, we came through Santa Fe because I wanted to see Santa Fe, and Santa Fe was crazy. They had mask guidance for outside. Yes. And it was one of the only cities I saw on that whole trip. And we took a month going through different states. That was one of the only cities I saw where lots of people were wearing them outside. And we weren't, of course. Wear them inside. I'm certainly not going to wear it outside. That was my choice. But we had a guy do that to us. We were walking on a pretty much empty street. Some guy coming the other way wearing a mask and screamed at us. And it's like, dude, you're outside. What is the deal? Like, we're not even near you. It was about control. Like some people were saying in the chat. It was just, I think it brought out this inner authoritarian in some people of like wanting to control you, and that being one way they can do so. It's like the same people who would like yell at you if your dog's not on a leash. Some people in the chat can be like, hey, that's me. I'll yell at you if your dog's not on a leash. I'm just saying, I think there's an overlap there between the ones who are like, you're not a rule follower. The ones who are like, they love rules because they love enforcing them on you,
Right.
It was just another rule for some people that they could yell at you about.
I would never, I don't think I would have the guts to see someone walk past me and then be like, you're not wearing a mask. I mean, even if it were something else, I've had issues with neighbors where I can hear their child running nonstop. And it was like, it got to the point where it's really affecting my ability to do anything. And I've had to address it. But even then I'm just like, so I'm really sorry, but I'm not feeling well and I can hear run, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry about it, but can we do something about the running? Kind of thing. I would never be like, your child is running. I can't do that.
There's just a type. I know that they got called Karens a lot the past 2 years, but there's that type. Oh, one other funny tidbit from my time in Germany, Martina, our friends that we were staying with, they didn't know what a Karen was. Karen had not reached Germany.
That's so funny.
They were like, what's a Karen? And so we explained it. And then she said, oh, you mean an Erica?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I was like, that's so funny. An Erica.
That's so funny. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, I think we can call it a day soon. I did want to read a couple more things from the chat, if you don't mind. When you were describing the history of slavery and how some countries are still engaged in slavery, and there were also African tribes that engaged in slavery. And somebody mentioned the movie Woman King,
Yeah,
coming out
exactly.
soon, which is about a tribe that they were slavers. That's what they were
I
known
think
for.
they fought European. I don't know. Was it the British or the French? Someone they fought over like keeping slave trade. Like they're literally warred over like white European nations to keep the slave trade because you know what? They were benefiting off of it. They were getting things.
I do want to see that movie though. I wonder if they're going to incorporate that or not. Probably not, because they want to make the movie more about like a powerful female leader. I think instead of it
Right.
being about, hey, this is a movie about slavers, like
African slavers.
yeah, African slavers.
Yep.
Thank you, GJJ. We got a YouTube member. I don't even know. That might even be the first one. I just got memberships up and going. I don't
Cool.
even really understand how they work, but you guys do. Some of you asked for them, so they're there. And thank you, GJJ. Thank you for that. And then Dion was here, and she always drops the best quotes. She went and found the correct quote of what I was trying to say at the beginning of the show. The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. It's a great quote.
Right. I like that.
Lately, my favorite, sometimes I try and go in spurts and read people's comments on YouTube and respond to them. And I'll tell you, Martina, two of my favorite comments had nothing to do with woke, had nothing to do with current events. People that had made their first two people made their first handmade cowboy boot purchase based on stuff we had talked about on the show. And they were like, oh, I wanted to tell you, I got these new boots. And I'm like, that's awesome. And then, and it's funny because with that kind of a comment, I ended up leaving like a long, like, here's some tips on care for your new baby. I get really into it. But that's because handmade boots, that Benjamin Franklin
Hell
quote,
yeah.
if it is his, that's what that's about. Those boots last you forever. You pay a little more up front than you would for factory made, but you have them forever and they're great quality. So,
well, when I come to Texas, I'll get some cowboy boots. I don't think I have any.
Girl, I will take you on a day. We'll make a day of it. It'll be so much fun. I love to do this when people visit.
I'm all about like, and this is the thing when I get annoyed when people shit on New York too, is that I'm all about like appreciating where you're at, like, you know, win in Rome type thing. And it's like,
yeah,
Texas is not New York. So when I go to Texas, let's do all the Texas and I can appreciate that culture for what it is. So
yes. When I was in Germany, I ate the schnitzel. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Your average patriot nerd also became a member.
Wow.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. And Doc Savage gave a super chat. Thank you for the $5. Says, quick off topic question, Keri. Do you have a favorite Slater Kenny album? Oh, I don't remember the names of any of the albums, although I own a few. It's been so long since I've listened to them. Let me see. Did you listen to them, Martina?
What is it?
Slater Kenny.
No, I don't think so. I don't know what that is. I'm also really bad with names. If I hear a song, I'll be like, oh, I know that song. I don't know the names of them. I don't know who sang it.
So they were in that same kind of group as like Bikini Kill and La Tigra. I listened to more Bikini Kill than I did Slater Kenny, but I did go to some of their shows.
Yeah, no, I was into I really liked AFI. And
what's AFI?
AFI is like in the 2000s, man. They were like a thing. It was kind of like the emo scream, a little bit of scream. Yeah, it's like emo music. They were into punk, like their original albums. I was really into like the punk, like hardcore kind of scene in New York. Then there was oh shit, oh my god.
Well, I was more into the Slater Kenny and Bikini Kill probably because I was in that woke feminist world. And those were like the feminist punk inspired bands.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, they always had, you know, it was like the Riot Girl movement, that whole thing.
Yes. Okay, I know that. Yeah. No, I did like No Effects concerts in New York and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, Billboard Chris is in the chat. Hello, sir.
Oh, hey, Billboard Chris.
Billboard Chris, thank you for the super chat. You guys, I adore this man. If you haven't already, you should go follow him on Twitter because his posts are censored like no one else. Like they have him under some kind of, go to Twitter and see what I mean. It's hard to even see his tweets.
Wow.
Like if you retweet him, they're doing something extra weird to him, Martina, where if you retweet him, if somebody else, if they're not following him, they can't see what you retweeted. It says this is sensitive content and it's like blocked out to make it harder for his tweets to be shared.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because going that extra effort to click a button is like really censoring because people don't do that.
He says, I would like to go shopping for cowboy boots.
Yes. Yes, let's go.
I just, you know, if I keep doing deprogram, probably in a year, it's just going to be a cowboy boot channel.
That's so funny.
If we ever defeat wokeness, I'm cool with it.
You should get like a
I want it to
percentage
be,
sales.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want to talk about cowboy boots and antiques. That's what we'll do.
You should get like a percentage of sales from some handmade boots company.
I should, because you know what? I direct a lot of people to, well, the best priced handmade is Takova's. I don't work for them. I've never worked for them. And I've already, I can't, the two.
You know what? Those are the best referrals because there's no incentive there. You know, it's just like, nah, like this is true, genuine word of mouth. Like go there.
But I talk about them so much that one time I was at an event with comedian Gino Buscani, and we were talking about, and I was just going on and on about these boots and what's so great about them. And he's like, are you getting paid right now? Like to talk about them? I'm like, no. They're really good. Thank you, Henry, for the super sticker. And I think that's it. I think I got all of them. Oh wait, no. Trinoculus P, thanks for the chat. Super chat says, Martina, I miss you and your husband on Rebel News.
Aw.
Thanks for all the reporting you both did.
Thanks,
I didn't realize you were on Rebel News.
Oh, it was a few years ago. God, was it like 5 years ago or something? I don't know. Jack and I used to work at Rebel. That's when I lived in England. I was working for Rebel in England. And yeah, it was fun. We went to the Paris riots. We got tear gassed. We would do all sorts of stuff. But I think it was a plan to kind of do our own thing on our own channel. I mean, we both have our own YouTube, but I try to focus more on art because that's really my expertise. And, you know, sometimes if there's like a pop culture thing that pops up political wise, like if it relates to art and entertainment, then cool, I'll jump on that. But Jack is definitely still heavily political. That's his whole thing. So plus there's a lot going on in England, you know. Liz Truss just like, what is it called? Not retired. Quit? Is that the word?
Quit.
Resigned.
Resigned. Yeah, Jack is writing a lot. What about you? Are you, because you said that your Discord is mostly your art stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's like an arts community. I like to like kind of curate a bunch of other artists and like-minded artists. Some of them actually might not even be like-minded, but they're really cool. They have no problems with, you know, me or us or what we say in there. Differing opinions are always welcome, but it's nice to kind of have a place. It's so rare to have people that think like us, but they're also they're creatives. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to kind of have like a place for that. And it's been really fun because sometimes we just post memes in the main chat and have, you know, political discussions or share links like, can you believe this? But then we have like the side rooms where it's like people share their art, or there's kind of conversations about music that shared links of music or movie references, books, various topics. Sometimes people need help in something. It's like, hey, how do I do this in Adobe? So it's kind of great. Or you share your work, and then it's a network to reshare all that, because we definitely need a little bit more support in the arts. And that's kind of my mission. I feel like a lot of people don't care about like my photography or whatever I'm working on, because it's not like that hot take, that political hot take. So it's not getting all the retweets. So I wanted to have a little community where we can kind of help push it out, get those algorithms going. You know?
I love what you're doing, because we talk about this a lot on Deprogram, but you know, there's that famous quote. I'm blanking on his name right now. You guys help me remember his name, about how politics is downstream from culture.
Yeah.
And
Andrew
Breitbart. And it's true. And I think that's why I just love interviewing and talking to artists like yourself, because you're doing the stuff that not only is it more interesting to me, the culture warriors, the actual artist warriors, or what have you. That's more interesting to me. But I also think it's more impactful than politics. I do.
Yeah, I think in the long run, because I mean, these hot takes, these things, like a week goes by and now it's old news, and it's always, you have to keep chasing the dragon of sorts, you know. But art kind of like resonates a bit. It hits a little bit more, but it's a little harder to get that like instant attention the way that like a hot take does. So
Right.
I don't know. I hope people kind of appreciate it a bit more. I mean, I think it doesn't even matter if you're right wing. Like people like the arts. They don't realize it. Everyone's watching something. They're watching some sort of show that they're talking about. They're watching some documentary. They're listening to music, you know?
Yeah.
And there's all of that. And also it's part of, if you appreciate our Western culture, that's part of it. It's not all about appreciating Renaissance art. There's people today making really cool art. Like my photography, I think looks like the old, I do it, it's called like old masters. So like the old paintings, like the portraits of people that look like paintings from back in the day, but they're pictures. So there's, what is this? Oh, you're showing me.
Are you going to show us?
I just threw an Allen key at you by accident.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were throwing at me. Is it the Allen key or my
Sorry.
book?
I meant to give you the book, but I threw an Allen key for some
Threw an
reason.
Allen key at me. Yeah, no, so I guess he's sending me this book to show. But
Let me see.
yeah, I just finished this comic book. So my stage name is Lady Alchemy, and I got canceled and all that. So I just always viewed my Lady Alchemy character performing. I'm in costumes. I live in like Gotham City, New York City. So I always felt like it's perfect kind of story for a comic book. So I made a comic book out of it, and you know, got this skyline out there.
Awesome.
And all sorts of stuff. So it's in print. It's, you know, I mean, it's printed. It's at my house.
Where can people find your comics?
At my website, lady-alchemy.com. There's a shop. So yeah.
Cool. Martina, I'm just so impressed.
Oh.
I love what you're doing. We have below, if you guys want to find Martina on YouTube, it's linked below. But people can find you at lady-alchemy.com. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, the Twitter, there's Martina Markota. Instagram, Martina Markota. That's my name, like, on the thingy.
Don't wear it out. I can't hear "that's my name" without saying that.
No.
Cool. And there's your website up on the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and just talking about what's going on in the world. I love it. I hope you have a great weekend, and we hope to see your husband soon on Deprogrammed.
Cool.
Also.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. You can find Martina at martinamarkota.com. Oh, and I've got an ad. Hold on. Crap. I always forget. I should play these at the beginning. This is new for me. So we're going to go out. I know. I have an ad. Look, I'm going to set it up this way. I'll eventually quit setting it up, but I sit through so many different kinds of ads on YouTube for things like dildos and e-cigarettes and Bitcoin and all manner of things. So I feel like people can sit through a church ad. Here we go. Without getting offended. Here we go. Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you. Thank you. I had to come back before we leave because we got a super chat from Patriot Gestalt. Thank you, sir. He says, comic book, time to be a guest on FNT. I would love to see you on FNT. You would have a good time with those guys, I think. And then this cracked me up. Somebody says, dildos, bitcoins, and cigarettes would be a great name for a channel. That's all.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you again, Martina. Have a good weekend. You guys have a great weekend. See you later.